Thank you.
You the man.
Hey, Colin.
Just wanna say that. Skeleton. Skeleton, Jay.
Well, I got a little. I was enjoying that, actually, I was watching, I was like, Richard, it's not. I was on a phone call at the same time.
Oh, no, I thought called you. It was an accident. Yesterday, you.
Yeah. it was- I was like, oh, I'm so sorry.
That's a fuck call.
Cause I called you off, I'm really sorry.
I don't wanna call you though, but I wanna get pictures. That's what it's doing. I don't know what the schedule looks like.
I can probably.
I can actually. Student, if you talk with the student.
Like, it's like that one, I was like, what I realized I saw another one. Page, and I thought it was weird, so
You're welcome.
Thank you.
No brainer.
Oh.
Those numbers would be.
Me neither.
I didn't know.
Chill.
Better than I did.
It's like, I was gonna say, a big kind of like.
Yeah, there was one. I did determine who it was on the exit. I was like, oh, that's who it was. A little spicy in the air.
But this extra thing from the 10-year paper, PRM, that was my bad. It'll be in October. It'll be at the end of the finance, the last thing. This thing for people. Maybe add.
I've seen it, you get whatnot, you come out of there like you're in a sweatshop.
But this is the same thing you guys just did. We do it.
When I was on vacation, I just went like.
January 16th. Did it, because we were like on that, so. Why did they have? Like I said, Rock knows about it.
Only did it wherever she did. They know which ones.
That particular one.
I saw the same thing, but it's every person. No, but I have that, I have the little. I just use the pen when I did.
Really, right? Yeah.
Because that's what. Is he lethal already?
So what does it do with you? Why, what do you call? Have you?
Yeah.
And so it's gonna be 500 grants. No. So that's what his day. I submitted to the budget. That's last, that's it. Day. they are treated unless they. Unless they. You don't have an reading. It's all the other. They'll be treated just like they do from outside. Yeah, they would be treated as a shame outside of the water.
I got
They do not.
But going back to what you.
They have the ability to borrow. They claim you. That is us, like, in America. I'm like, oh my God. And we get the first, it's a class, what is the next? But they only, they that would be something that they would have to request from us.
Yeah, Alan Park.
Tina,
He's in
Tina,
And he was basically all the.
tax declaration,
That's a good show.
the tax declaration.
Yeah, for Erie Code, can you move on?
Sheriff's State, the law, everything.
It'll go fast.
Public, and they would be.
Deb, how are you?
Yeah. because they do not have to read that, like, they know it's all-
Yeah. Hello, Rock. How's it go? Yeah.
It's funny, I'll let you know in December.
Sharon looks like the world closes because the population changed.
I just did a camera.
It's not really sure.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
We've been having.
They got enough other ones there.
Yeah.
For sure. Oh, here.
We don't make time for that to start.
Right.
Well.
Yeah, it's just. Chris, come on. Let's go.
Then it's the minutes.
Call the finance committee meeting to order. Clerk will take the roll, please, since the population changed.
Mr. Bale,
Here.
Mr. Drexel,
Here.
Mr. Horton,
Here.
Mrs. Sharman. Here. Mr. Scatella,
Here.
Mr. Winarski,
Here.
Chairman Copeland.
Here.
Real quick, before we get to the agenda items that are listed on there, I think you guys saw an email from Megan regarding the resolution for the IGT transfer. This has been set down with plenty of time at no fault of Pleasant Ridge for getting it on the agenda. It's just been a busy couple of weeks, as we all know. So she had sent over a packet, and it's also in front of you, I believe, for approval of the resolution to authorize the IGT contract. Does anybody have any issues with moving this to the agenda?
None, particularly since we're the board of Pleasant Ridge, man.
No objections? No. Okay. Any discussion regarding the resolution that you is pertinent? Pretty simple thing we do once a year, right?
Just housekeeping.
Okay, so we will be adding that to the agenda for Thursday's meeting, next Thursday. Going to the items listed on the finance agenda. Ordinance number 64, 2024, approval of grant to Fly Erie Fund LLC, going to a second reading. Any concerns? Yes, Ellen?
I thought we were going to ask them to come in and talk to us. There's information before this was voted.
I have a couple of questions. If this gets voted on in the affirmative, what is requested doesn't take place, what happens?
Well, the ordinance as written does not supplementarily appropriate the funding. So as it exists now, there has not been money moved to a line item.
So
in
we're
order
not,
to
we
actually-
wouldn't move the much restricted.
And it is an ordinance creating restrictions that would be a direct violation of law at that point. If money were to be released prior to the condition being met.
Okay, and if it's voted no, if it's voted down, no money's gonna be given to Fly Erie.
My interpretation would be that no money would be appropriated, but neither would the terms be available. I suppose if a member wanted to still submit an ordinance to supplementarily appropriate the money separate from that ordinance at a later time, nothing would prevent them from doing so. It's not substantially the same material for an ordinance that has failed to bring up that business again, the home rule charter.
Yeah, I wasn't here for the beginning, but we're talking about the,
Fly Erie.
If the flyer ordinance as written would fail,
Well,
Yeah.
first of all, if it would pass, and they do not remove the county employee.
well, they don't get the money then.
Well, when we first started this, I was hesitant. Now we're waving the carrot with the stick. Get rid of the county person on there, or you're not getting their money. You're letting down the people of Erie County. That's a positive. Especially when there's nobody tied into this LLC. Who's tied into the LLC?
I'm a little bit surprised at the about face of the position. I understand the position, I understand putting forward that argument. I would still contend that appointing somebody as a member to the board and then going to that organization that they are either affiliated with or exercise some budgetary control of and asking them for money, it smells of a quid pro quo.
Do we have any
That is
other,
the issue that I have with it.
do we have any other organization, county organization or private organization where there's a county officer serving on a private board? No,
If Mr. Wood is on Fly Erie as well.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Wood is on.
He's
Fly
not a
Erie
county
as well.
employee.
Well, it's,
He's not a county employee.
He's with an authority. He has nothing to do with Erie County.
I understand that, but it's still affiliated with the county.
No,
We're not talking about affiliated,
No.
we're talking about an employee of the county. The county has a policy where if you're an employee, we ask that you not be on boards, authorities.
Yeah, I mean, you can't, an authority is an entirely different matter. Okay, under the law, that's a state creature. all council gets to do is appoint the officer for the board members. We're talking about a member, we're talking about a high official in county government serving on a board, a private board that is getting money from Erie County.
Particularly an LLC.
Yeah, I mean, we've not done that. I've not seen that as long as I've been around.
Even though he was on the board prior.
Well, that,
to-
no.
Isn't it?
That, and in fact, I don't know how that happened or why that happened, but that's a subject for investigation perhaps.
Well, that's
Why in
I
fact,
thought
he,
we
why, how
haven't
did he
been
ever,
able to talk to us.
okay, well, how did he ever even turn up as a manager? How does that work? We don't even know how that happened and who he talked to,
Manager,
a board, one of the
On the
board, one of the managers,
Member,
yeah. So we don't even know the backstory
well,
on
that's
that.
why I thought he was going to come in and speak to us.
If I can interject for a moment though. The diverse hearing board, the point of criticism that the county executive had of several of members of the board of diverse hearing is that they asked for funding for their own organization. It's quite similar, is it not, to sit on the board and have decisions about where you're steering money to either, you know, is he acting in the best interest of the county in doing so? I just, it's. These things are too closely related, and I hear the critique of the city. I hear the critique of Mr. Wood. I understand why you might state that. But I do not exercise any direct authority over either of those two organizations. And this is where I have a say. And I just have a significant issue of somebody taking a seat, a position of authority in an organization, knowing that they were then going to go and ask the government that they're affiliated with for funding. And it is not a rejection. I support fly hearing. Furthermore, in our budget sessions, I intend to submit an action sheet to restore funding to the chamber. Because I do believe in those organizations. I just don't think that in order to invest in them, that I have to exercise control over them.
Well, first of all, I don't believe they're gonna be voting on anything outside of a bill they get from the airlines. If this area falls short of capacity and whatever else is in that agreement.
Well, Mr. Chair, do we know why the county executive wants to serve on this as a governor? Why is an exception always being made? I mean, this issue never came up for 30 years. I've been around here, except one time. And council voted to remove that person from the office because she was an employee. That's been the standard forever. And along comes a new county executive and wants to be on this board. What is his interest or incentive to being on that board? How does it help Erie County government for him to be on that board? Those are the questions that should be asked. And why should county council do everything that the administration suggests? Why doesn't county council grow a spine and say, no, these are our policies and these are our rules?
I don't believe the administration came down here. It was the LLC.
Well,
They're not connected.
So we're not, so in other words, you're hesitant because of the LLC?
I'm hesitant because of the new airline that's trying to do something positive in this county at that airport that hasn't been done for 20 years.
Okay,
For
so
God's
do you
sakes.
think that if council passes an ordinance that simply says, I'm sorry, county executive, you can't serve, you think we're not gonna get the money?
I don't-
I mean, you think we're not, we still give the money, and do you think that those airlines aren't gonna come in unless the administration is on?
No,
the-
no, no, no.
Well, okay,
No.
I mean,
I didn't say that. You're asking me to vote yes. On that resolution. And you talk about a quid pro quo. Vote yes to take him off. So the airline gets their money if needed. That's what you're telling me.
Well,
I'm not talking about the county executive or who sets up there or what administrator he puts on there. I'm talking about the airline.
And nobody on that board should benefit. They're there strictly in an advisory capacity.
So what is,
Why does it have
Not
to
one
be-
person should
what is his
benefit.
interest in it?
Is Mr. Wood gonna benefit? Is the person from the city gonna benefit? If they are, then they shouldn't be on there either. There should be no benefit other than providing a voice to the entire group, the population of Erie County, the city, the county, key leaders, whatever. To me, that's the whole purpose of it. It's not, none of them should benefit.
That's my philosophy too, is that somebody from the county should have a say.
It has been my position, and I've stated multiple times that the county executive wishes to select someone that is not an employee of the county and not an officer of the county. That to represent his interests. I actually don't take offense to that. If that's his choosing. I just don't think that somebody that has control over taxpayer dollars should sit on the board of the destination of those dollars. That's all.
Mr. Chair, does anyone on council think that it is a bad policy to prohibit county officials from serving on private boards? Because that's all it is. It's a policy that's been around forever.
Well,
And this is
I'm
the
on
first-
private boards, although they're not receiving money from the county, but I am
It's a
on.
key
the board.
distinction,
yeah.
isn't it?
Okay, that's fine. But that's the big issue, that you're conflicted serving, if you're serving on a board that's receiving money from the county, that's the conflict. And the election board, the county council has for years prohibited that. As a matter of policy, because it doesn't look good to the taxpayer. But now council's being asked to make another exception. For the administration.
Nobody asked me. Nobody asked me
That's you what, Terry?
to make an exception to have county employee, elected official, whatever. Nobody asked me that.
No, but it sounds
I'm
like,
asking you now. It's right
Nobody,
in front of you.
who asked,
It's
You
right
got
in front of you. The ask is, let's stop this something.
nobody asked me about
I
putting
don't
him
know.
on the board.
I'm just saying the ask is before us, and I think he asked our attorney.
I'm more
Does anyone
concerned
have a
about
problem
police
with that
airline.
policy?
Decide who's on the board from the county.
you're being asked to vote on on a policy. You're being
Yeah, I
asked to put
asked-
a condition in an ordinance. based
My
on-
question was, if it passes in the affirmative, with a majority of the votes, and the LLC does not remove the county employee, who at this time is the county executive, we will not give the money to the airline.
Well, I guess it's kind of like we had a 5-2 majority to do some action that we did here. And the county executive did what he wanted to do, I mean, his finance director. And so that kind of held us on that too. And since the DEI was brought up, I was simply Washington Square watching that stuff. I won't call their names, but representatives from Helmet Health Foundation and city leaders that got up and did the same thing that the DEI board members did. In fact, they received the same legal information from the same lawyer, from the same law firm, did the same thing. They got crushed. While everyone else, I don't know if it's privilege or just that particular crowd, but everyone else did the same thing. I got an interest in this and I got an interest in this, but the money for nobody said anything. So it's either wrong for the Black, brown community, or it's wrong for everybody, or it's okay for the white community. It should be okay for the Black community too. Now, it may seem like apples and oranges, but there really ain't that much difference. And so what's before us is a policy. We asking to restrict the money. We're saying we want to give them the money. We restricting it. We're asking that our policy be consistent, that no county employee be on at least of all damn private board that we find. And I think the wording is most reasonable, prudent people would conclude that either it's a conflict or even the appearance of it. And no one wants the appearance of a quid pro quo.
And once again, Mr. Chair, excuse me,
Chris first, please.
I'm sorry.
Chris.
I still say the point in this, like, I understand you're worried about this killing. The Breezeway airline or something coming in, but $150,000 sets this project. To fail. It shouldn't be started. I don't think the money that they're getting for, this is just an all states and amount that they're asking us for, right? We're all joining up to look at this and think, if I don't give $50,000 a year, we're not gonna be able to keep two of these airlines. I think it's a stretch, so I don't think we're killing it. I think we're holding the line to the accountability, like we say, that if DEI can't do it, or it's written, and we haven't done this ever before, where we have someone that's a public official on a board and there's a conflict of interest. We need to take a stand on that, I think is the point. I'm just trying to step on your toes here, but I'm just trying to kind of clarify. I got you, I'm just trying to clarify what I think in between the two of you, like, it's not gonna kill it. But I think very strongly, we have to stand up and do what's right, and that's. You know, we have to preserve integrity here too.
County executive can resign if he's worried about the money. You can just stop. I don't throw rocks and hide my hands. We can say county employee, all that. I'm too old to be playing like that. The county executive, if we're worried about the entire community, the plane, and we all whatever, flying whatever, he always has the option of removing himself from consideration and get that out there, but I don't see that happen.
I would add to Chris's point real quick, because in case somebody has suggested that this money somehow prohibits their current efforts. As I understand the contract with Breeze, it is a revenue guarantee. And as long as Breeze maintains, I think something like a 96-97% occupancy rate, which I don't know if you guys have seen the news, they have. There's actually no financial obligation being given to Breeze. Right now, the brilliance of what they've negotiated already, the great work they've already done has been actually bringing in flights without cost. And I think that they've done a really good job. I really want to give them money. I just don't think that when we invest in people, that we should force our way into exercising control over that organization. And frankly, my perception is that the county executive is obsessed with trying to exercise control over any organization which he does not have direct authority over. It's a consistent theme to criticize and attack those organizations that are not under his direct authority. And frankly, I'd like to protect Fly Erie from that.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
The other thing is that, you should not be concerned about council's vote on this affecting the bottom line of that Fly Erie. And if you're concerned that, I mean, what business does an LLC have in going around to get money from different private people and councils and governments without coming to council first? Now, we don't know whether there was a quid pro quo already. We don't know whether the administration said, put me on the board and I'll give you 150. We have no idea. Now, we don't have to know that either. But the bottom line is it all happens right here in council. And if council decides this is the way it goes, do you think the administration is going to veto that? It's not in council's hands. Ultimately, it's in the administration's hands. He has the money with the condition, and he could either accept it and use the money, or he could veto it. And let him veto if he doesn't like it. Let him make the veto and cut off the money. But that's what he would have to do.
Move on.
Yeah, we belabored the point. Items number 2 through 21 are all second reads for the budget. If anybody feel a need to discuss any of those items independently, we'll meet on Saturday to discuss potential action sheets and Thursday to vote on any potential action sheets. So hearing nothing, we'll move on to item number 22. Resolution approval of application for funds for local share assessment grant for Hurt Auditorium. Which of you two would like to go first?
We're gonna do it together, two Jessicas, better than one.
Gonna do that.
Thank you, council, for offering us this opportunity to explain this grant application. So the local share account is dollars that the state administers a grant fund that generates from gaming. They come from a horse racing act, and those dollars are statewide, and applications, we learned about the opportunity to apply for those funds last year. In Erie County, municipalities and authorities and police departments applied really successfully last year, and this last month, the award was made about $12.6 million came from the local share account into different projects throughout Erie County. So we were very impressed with that return on investment. Erie County particularly worked with one of our entities to apply for some funding to purchase a much needed ambulance, and they were successful. So we had a lot of great success with this fund recently. So the planning department took a look at what was coming up. The grant round is due on November 30th, and we were thinking of what Erie County needs were relative to opportunities to apply. The funds are used to support projects that are in the public interest and improve the quality of life in the community. Being that the planning department co-locates in the library, we're very familiar with what goes on in that facility. We have what's called a JOC, a Joint Operating Committee. That committee identified a few years ago that the Hurt Auditorium is in great need of repair. And so we thought that'd be a great project. That is a public facility used by many groups in our community to have that public space to be able to do whether they're having some kind of a show, whether they're having different kind of meetings, and it is in significant need of repair. This fund, you can apply up to $1 million, and we think we'll have a very strong application, closing in close to $1 million mark. And Jessica is going to tell you about all the things we'd like to apply to have remedied in the Hurt.
So the Hurt Auditorium is one of the areas in that building that is difficult for us to secure grant funding to refurbish, because it's not something that the library can apply for grant funding alone, because the space does not belong specifically to the library. So the grant will cover the upgrade of AV equipment. Now, to put that in perspective, the Hurt was built in 1996 and 0 upgrades have been made to AV equipment, electrical infrastructure, lighting, seating, any parts of the Hurt. We are rapidly approaching a point where our AV equipment will be unusable. There is one other control board in the United States that is the same analog control board that we use. We occasionally pay to rent it. We occasionally pay to send someone in from another state to fix it when it is broken, which at this point is monthly. And we are approaching a point where we will no longer be able to offer that space to the public to rent, because it isn't something, as any of you know, if you've ever gotten, if you've gotten into a car recently that was built in 1996, the parts you can't interchange the parts. So everything will need to be replaced. Now, the Hurt Auditorium is one of the more accessible spaces that can be rented. When the Hurt is rented, it is rented out to nonprofits who generally do not have the funding to rent any of the other spaces that are similar in Erie County. It is rented to anyone other than a group that would like to have a wedding or a birthday party, because that would get a little bit out of control for us. But there are religious organizations that rent that space to hold meetings. There are musical groups that rent that space. There are health-oriented organizations that rent that space to present both cultural and educational opportunities to the public that benefit the public in general. So in order to apply for this grant, we need to have a resolution by the governing board, which is all of you, to create a resolution that approves our ability to apply for that. We are currently, there isn't an amount in there because I am still acquiring all the quotes for that. It does require specific quotes. You can't just ask for an estimated amount, but we are gonna fall somewhere between $850,000 and the $1 million cap. And that would be to completely renovate the floors, paint the walls, replace all of the AV equipment, which includes upgrading the electrical infrastructure in that space because that will need to be done to accommodate the new systems. As well as the projector screens and all of those things, and reupholstering the seats as well. We did have someone come in and evaluate the hardware of the seats, and they found that those would be easy to repair and don't actually need to be replaced, but the upholstery should be replaced.
Does this specific grant require a local share match?
There's no match. It is a reimbursable
Reimbursable.
grant, but there
It's
is
not
no.
I'm sorry, we did talk to DCD, it's not
Oh,
reimbursement.
okay.
So we would be able to apply for the funds and we would be able to submit the invoices as we're getting them for payment from the local share account.
The only cost to the county is the $100 application
Application
fee,
fee.
which the library can cover.
And this facility over the years has declined in its utilization by public groups because the lighting doesn't work, the sound doesn't work. There's so many failings in there that we want to be able to get it back up to be a resource for the public.
Yeah, probably a dumb question. I'm selfish when we talk about dollars and cents. Is these systems that we're upgrading or replacing or renovating, I imagine, Project Neptune will have use of that stuff too. Is there any consideration to giving them an opportunity to invest as well? And I also noticed last year when I was down there and every month I come down there, that the sidewalks are due to repair. So I hear you saying things about that in the grant, but I know they're acceptable uses. And I'd be more worried about safety type of things like that than I would getting a piece of equipment. Although I get it, I'd be more worried about litigation if someone falls on cracked sidewalks. So maybe you can look at that.
Any other comments, questions? Sounds like a great project. Thank you.
Thank you.
The last item on our agenda, I'm sorry, Tina, that we didn't move you up, but we have, it looks like 13 separate parcels looking for tax exoneration.
Good evening, thank you. I'm here with Attorney Naylor, to ask that, you consider, exonerating past taxes, Erie Coat property. As you know, last year, in partnership with Port Authority, we put that property on through condemnation. It has a significant amount of back taxes. Well, actually, it's not that bad. And we've gone to the school board, the city, and now we have to seek waiver, the payment of those back taxes. The investment at remediating Erie Coke site is upwards of $100 million. So every little bit that we can save, we appreciate it. Attorney Mailer's here to answer any questions you have specifically. The amount that we have.
You do have exoneration approval from the other two taxing bodies?
From the school district, the city has not taken it up yet.
Pending at the city. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, but we're typically last after the city. We wait to see school with the other two taxing entities, and we're traditionally last, so. No problem. That means it's on our agenda, but it's kind of out of order.
If I might, just elaborate a little bit. The county assessment board has declared this property exempt. And they reduced the total assessed value of the property from $2 million to $1,000. Sort of in recognition of the fact that this is now, until it's repurposed, public property. So, and the taxes that we're asking to be exonerated relate to that period of time when it was under prior ownership, not since Tina's group has acquired the property.
Oh, no, I
It's
have full
taxes.
understanding of
Okay.
that. This is something we typically do all the time, exonerate taxes. It just happened to be on your particular P parcel. But again, cause we usually, it's like housekeeping, but typically we don't do this before the city and the school district. That's why my colleague asked about the other two taxing bodies.
Thank you.
Do you have an idea of what the timing of their agenda?
I understand from Attorney Betts, city solicitor, that the mayor is prepared to sign off on it at any point.
All right, I just curious.
The board can, the council can, approve it subject to the approval of the city here.
Absolutely, sure. Okay, and seeing as that's the last
Thank
item
you.
on my agenda, I don't have on my agenda. For Paul to give a financial statement, but if you'd like to.
Well, everyone got their financial thing and email this today. If you want me to read the statement, why not?
Yeah.
If all the
Don't worry,
ordinances
Paul.
were approved, the county is compliant with the requirement of 2 months general fund expenditure in the fund balance by 47,990,842
Can I ask a question about the fund balance, and something I haven't been clear on? You have encumbered line items set aside for expenses. It's only after the end of the year that those unspent monies roll back into the general fund, correct?
Correct.
And so the $47 million doesn't reflect those monies that would come back in at the end of the year. Do you have a general projection of where we're at, you know, it's November now, of what monies will fall back into the
I
general
can
fund?
give you one.
If you could
The
follow.
end of, the end of October statements, and I don't have it on my phone right now, the ones you guys will get. Did you send them out? We sent them out yesterday. So I'll look, Rock, I'll get you something.
And then,
So we know what money we always collect in November, you know, how many payrolls are left, you know, et cetera. So,
and then the last question I have, and forgive me, but we talked about spending more time talking about finances and then we thinking deeply about that. I brought up the issue the other day about a section of the home rule charter that allows for, expense line items to be moved from one line to the other within 10% of the budget of that department. And it talks about, giving a report to council within 10 days of those transactions having been done. I don't think I've seen anything in the 10 months of my tenure that.
well, we send it
shows-
down to the controller's office, they get that. I thought they were always.
Well, the home rule charter says that council should be advised of any interdepartment transfers. And I understand that sometimes we have ways of doing things, but can we make sure that council starts to get a report of those transfers?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, my understanding was for the last 50 years. That when the controller got this, he passed it on to you. If you're telling me that's not true, then we'll take care of it.
Yeah, I would.
Just like the financial statement
Not
that you got yesterday, that I hope everybody looked at, that you've been getting for years and years and years.
Sure, I do. Andre, you had a point to make?
Yeah, I do. In addition to what you're requesting, I'd like to just reiterate. Under the finance director's job, that he should be giving county council, not the controller. But county council and the county executive. An exact, not an approximate. Account of what the county's finances are to include. All encumbered and unencumbered funds. And I don't see us getting that.
Well, and to Andre's point, that's part of why I was asking about the planning and gaming funds. Cause as I look at the fund balance appropriated in that fund, in the budget, you know, it's $4 million of gaming funds. Fund balance appropriated on our games. Well, what percentage of that gaming fund is it? How much money is there? Is it even encumbered for another purpose? And that's not immediately clear to me, so it's hard for me to understand making budgetary decisions if I don't know what that fund balance is.
So that's why, in
That's-
the email I sent you, the assumption is, at the beginning of the year, all revenues are gonna be received and all expenses are gonna be spent, so. You know,
Right, but in
The
order for,
assumptions are never, ever, right, because it's just a budget and stuff, and so without the information, it makes it really, really tough for us to do our job and so I won't go down that path because we're here for something else, but I gotta tell you, we are gonna be doing this budget Saturday. And again, I already discussed it with you, the quality of the product that you gave us was just inferior. And it's tough, it's making it tough for
It'll be a
college.
lot better next year with the new staff.
But to your point, when I see fund balance appropriated, it tells me that there is a gaming fund balance that has some money set aside that was unspent from prior. Not the general fund, but specifically a gaming fund. I know some amount of that money needs to be there as a backstop for the community college. And so I don't know what that amount is, this $4 million even into that backstop. Is there $50 million there and everything's just, yes, Patrick?
Oh, no,
Oh,
I was talking to salary though.
oh, okay. But, anyways, I apologize. We've gone a long time today.
Well, one more thing, since we went so long, because that would, what would really be helpful is invoices for the money that you have, for the things that you have spent. We'd be nice if you supplied those invoices so we can make informed decisions.
Anyway. Jim, you wanna take it away?
Take it away. Call the personnel meeting to order. First on the agenda, ordinance number 2024, approval of 2025 Erie County non-bargaining employees pay plan. Annie?
Good evening, council. Every year we submit the non-bargaining pay plan. This year is like every other year, it's just the 3%. We always wait until the union contracts are finished and then bring this to you at the very end of the year, as are the other ordinances that follow this, but we can speak specifics. Happy to answer any questions.
I don't know that my question is specifically for Ann. I guess one for council. We do have a personnel issue that's unaddressed. The county executive has vetoed the approval of the director of administration. And I'm a little confused about the results of that because that would tell me that his pay is still unapproved. And I understand the intent that they wanted, he objected to the amendment, and I understand it. But I would think that at least through the balance of the year, prior to approving next year's salary, shouldn't we need to yet still approve this year's salary?
I would, Mr. Chair. I mean, he's vetoed it, so council could override that and then you would have, I wasn't here for that meeting, but I think you approved it for 90,000. Yeah, so he gave his reasons for vetoing it. Council could override it if it wants to for its own reasons.
I mean, if we have to have that meeting first before.
Or you could have it maybe before, but it could be done. If council is not interested in overriding it, then, you could just let it go. I disagree with his reasoning, but.
I do too, if he's a first-time employer or first-time employee in that position. He's by default not an incumbent. He never had his initial pay approved, so that the argument that was somehow unlawful, it doesn't hold because he's not an incumbent. I can understand if people disagree with amending the pay, particularly, I get it, that's a fair point of difference of opinion, but it still sits that his pay is not approved, that we should act in some way, but I don't expect the veto override vote to be any different. And then if we fail to override the veto, he still doesn't have a pay approval. It's still a whole year of council's authority to set somebody's pay,
Which brings
not
me,
being recognized.
man, and it's aside from that, but just the length of how all this is drawn out, kicking down the road. And what, we're still waiting on outcomes from the 2023 budget. And I don't know if the solicitor has any good news or updates for us on that, but that's something that we really need to have some resolution.
So every appointed official is a separate ordinance,
Mhm.
as you can see, so, and obviously, we just processed what you approved. So, that's where it is now, that's what's being proposed, and it's really up to the attorneys and counsel to make a final decision.
Now, it ain't up to the attorneys, it's up to council
Council,
to make a final decision.
okay, well, Tom's here, so I just, I didn't want
Yeah,
to feel.
yeah, I don't want you to think Tom got that type of authority.
I got you.
You know,
Because he don't.
So any other questions?
Anybody have any suggestion on how to handle that situation? I mean, I offered it for discussion for, I mean.
I guess that's what I said back in February, and I'll reiterate it, that it should have been handled in February. It's more or less our fault that it got.
It took a
Not
long
our
time for
fault.
me to arrive at a response to their response to political pressure
Not our fault.
being acting outside of the law. I mean, like, it is our authority to set the pay. That's why these ordinances are on our agenda. It's our authority to do so. And like, I understand that there's personal connections and respect and not wanting to buck the system, but like, we ceded our authority for a year. We gave up a part of our power that by precedence, we're gonna have a really hard time taking back from another county executive in the future, like, and that's what really bothers me about the whole situation is it's an erosion of the authority of county council. And I would suggest to you that anyone that cedes that authority is violating their oath.
We just tabled it though in February. We had the first read. And then we tabled it, and we never came up with a solution or a number until
From the starting
a
salary.
week ago.
Right, but the point of tabling was to cause some discomfort for
Some
the
discussion.
county executive performing a separate illegal action of not honoring appropriations by county
I mean,
council.
farther voting it down than instead of table.
Yeah, I mean,
You were, back then, maybe we would have been better off voting it up or down instead of tabling it and going that route.
oh, for sure, I have learning lessons from the situation.
So do you wanna meet and try to override the veto, or are we just gonna set a salary? This is gonna do something. And the starting salary, is less than 90 grand and stuff, and so. He doesn't get to just do what he wants to do, and yeah, we held it up. And yeah, it's our authority, and yeah, we held it up with reason. We held it up because he would not, still has no plans to. Him and Paul said they're not releasing the money that we enacted by 5-2 veto-proof majority. He said not gonna release it, but they come down here, oh, we don't have the money, but you come down here every other week for ARP money. So it's crazy, and now we're here. And we finally have some leverage. What do you want to do with it?
Well, Mr. Chair, the biggest problem with it, and the administration did not mention that in his reasons for vetoing. But the biggest problem is the council did not act at the time. Because any court of law that is going to look at this is going to interpret the lack of an immediate response as a waiver by council of its authority. That's how the court is going to look at that.
I can respect that point of view.
And that's the problem. Now, how to fix that? You could go through the motions and, since he vetoed it, in a lot of ways, he didn't have to, but he did. Council could respond by trying to override it. And that's one way of doing it, to get things back to normal. Council passes a law, the executive vetoes it, council overrides or fails to override. Then you approach the new budget. And now you have a situation where you can't reduce his salary because it's already established at the 97,000.
Except that had never been
It's
approved.
never been approved.
Yes, it has been approved by council's
Without our
failure
action,
to
our
act.
inaction.
By council's failure to act.
So the new
Council,
precedent is
by-
that.
By its failure to act, council accepted it. That's intro to law. I mean, you can't just sit back and do nothing and with things like that.
Should they?
And council asked us to vote it up, and vote it down.
So anyway, so to get it back, so now you can't reduce his 97,000. The best you could do is not give him a raise. You have that authority.
Which I'm not necessarily stating that I would desire to do that. But for somebody to get paid for a year without council's authority, nobody could expect that to go untouched.
Except that the caveat is that it was with council's authority by its failure to act.
Well, the caveat, that's one train of thought legally. The other train of thought is starting employees, starting at the base level salary. Whatever that pay code is, whether it's a 12 or 9 or 8. And stuff there, they do have defined starting salaries for those positions. And so even though council failed to, doesn't necessarily, in my mind, relegate him to $97,000. The fallback would be, that's what you should have paid him.
We had the power to
starting
set that,
salary.
we had the power to set that
Yeah.
salary and vote on it. We
Yeah.
didn't do that.
Disagree.
Mr. Chair. How? I don't remember you ever bringing that up before.
Oh, I brought it up many times to vote on it,
And-
to reduce his salary and vote on it.
Yeah, it is.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. You told us in a way that our inaction would be our doing.
Well, you could make up your mind, so, you know.
I didn't hear that.
I didn't hear that part either, and it's well, I mean, I would just suggest that we could strike every word that's on this personnel agenda, because we've already seen the authority to set salaries. That's all, that's my point. I'm a little, I understand for those that voted against it, I get it, and I'm like, no hard feelings. But it is frustrating to see us willingly give up our authority. This is our job, we set salaries. And we said, you know what, we're not gonna approve this until you honor the ordinance that we passed.
But that's the crux of the argument. We didn't set the salary. So we're gonna do our job in January. We're gonna set the salaries and we'll vote them up or down, and we won't table it based on political reasons. We'll do it based on what's best for our county employees, what's best for the taxpayers, and be done with it. And
Yeah,
it gets
what's
voted
best-
up or down.
Yeah, what's best for the taxpayers is that we have 3 independent bodies of government that work for accountability. What's best for the taxpayers is that we have an executive branch, a legislative branch, and the courts. What's not good for the taxpayers is when the legislative branch takes a hiatus and we don't do our job, or we're emasculated to the degree that we have been this year. It's horrible.
And I think, I would offer too that in this climate, defending our systems and defending the vision of power, defending the system of government is the utmost priority. I mean,
Well, I know, but, there are procedural ways to do that. And, we just-
well, Tom, for 10 months, I wish you would have brought one of them up in a meeting instead of now when we're talking about it.
I had brought this up many times to vote on it.
I think that's why
I
I keep
honest-
saying too, that we need to do something about it, that it was.
Okay, so now we're
majority that
here.
Didn't want to.
You could, the next meeting is, next Tuesday.
Thursday.
Thursday, excuse me. So, have we advertised for Thursday yet?
Thursday at 3 o'clock.
And have we advertised?
Yes, we have.
I don't see the point to have a veto override meeting, votes are not gonna change.
Well, how many days did we have to respond to the veto?
30.
Till the November 30th. So,
Let's
you could entertain that, before the budget. If you want to set things straight. I mean, if you, at least, you know, you have it on record that you tried to override it, and you're not giving up on the idea, that you waived your argument by not, acting on a timely basis. So he vetoes now and council tries to override it now. Regardless of how the chips fall, council did not set a precedent by failing to act on a timely basis.
So, sidebar, some change of direction. The 2023 budget, have we heard anything back from the courts?
Or you? That is, yes, we have, and I provided council with an update on that, and there is an argument here in front of, the judge on December 6th. I believe.
It's gonna be here.
It's gonna be here.
We make sure, this show file has that, and that we all have that on our calendar, daytime, judge.
Sure. Yeah, so that's where that is, and he will. I mean, if you recall that he wanted to have it in next January, and I called him. And spoke to his secretary, he got back to us and he agreed to move it up to December 5th. Now, it really doesn't matter because we're still going to have the same problem, December 5th or 6th. We'll still have the same problem going through things this year. But it really doesn't matter because the decision, if it comes out in January, is going to inform both parties as to what your limitations are and words. So we should be set at that.
What's that do for this year's budget?
Pardon?
What's that do for our budget this year?
Yeah, let's
And
add,
right.
let's add positions this year
Terrible.
before we get to court date. Instead of, decreasing, he still thinks he can add. So Jim, question. Is there anything else for the good of the order for this personnel meeting, or may I be excused?
Everyone's good. Let's adjourn.
Oh, that, you know,
Gary, you got a position on that? Our action sheet going to be publicly available prior to the meeting.
They should have done that.
Good for me. Good for me.